Hey everyone, this is Chad with Vibe Luxury Golf Carts, and today I'm going to be taking you through both the 2026 DACH Apollo and the 2026 DACH Apollo Elite, and I'm going to be showing you every single difference between the two so you know what you're shopping for. So let's get right into it. Right out of the gate, MSRPs are the same on these models, though you will find dealers are starting to be more negotiable on the older models while they make space for the Elites. The standard DACH Apollo is going to be phased out and only the Elites will be available over time. This is a whole new model that has been released by DACH, and it's the Apollo Elite. So this is what they're going to be transitioning to. They're going to be only producing these now, and the older standard Apollos will be phased out throughout the year. So with that being said, let's dive into some of the key details that differentiate the two and then help you, decide what you want to buy. So let's get into it. Right out of the gate, you're going to notice that there was a slight redesign in the front brush guard. You get much more ground clearance with the Elites. So you can see you get roughly 8 inches of ground clearance with the Elites, where the standard Apollo, you get only about 6 inches. So you get almost 2 inches more ground clearance to the bottom of your front brush guard with the Elites. All right, now let's talk about our suspension. So with the standard Apollos, you have a dual control arm setup, a dual A-arm setup. You have your upper control arm and your lower control arm. And then you have your tie rod to a solid cast knuckle with a coilover setup and hydraulic disc brakes. This is pretty standard for most vehicles on the roadway, upper and lower control arm. It allows for full adjustment of the suspension and everything. And you can see you have a adjustable lower ball joint, so you can really fine tune the alignment. With the Apollo Elites, they moved to just a lower stamped steel control arm, but they added in a sway bar, which helps a lot. You have your lower stamped steel sway bar, you have your tie rod, and then you have a sway bar linkage and the sway bar with a coilover setup. And this obviously also still has the hydraulic disc brakes. When we're talking about the ride, the overall ride stability and how comfortable it is. So I will say, surprisingly enough, I didn't think it would be the case, but the Elite does ride smoother. It does. The standard Apollos did ride pretty stiff. They have a lot of adjustments here, and you could fine tune them, but they did ride stiff. These are a little softer. They handle the bumps a little better, and that sway bar really does help a lot for the overall stability of the cart while it's going full speed. When you only run that lower control arm, you'll find yourself actually pushing through the turn rather than actually making the turn. So you do get a better turning radius out of the standard Apollos.
Just wanted to add another point here. As you can see on the standard Apollo, you have that coilover that comes down to the lower control arm, and that's where it ties into the suspension. Now, if we go over to the Elite suspension, you can see the coilover actually connects directly to the knuckle itself. So completely different coilovers and probably more than likely different spring rates, which is contributing to that softer suspension on the Elites.
The Apollo Elites have the reflective side markers. A lot of the standard Apollos did not have the reflective side markers. So that's going to become a new standard on all the new release Apollos and Apollo Elites. And that is just for LSV compliancy across the different states. So that's all that's for. Another difference that's pretty easy to spot is your fender flares. So obviously you can see the standard Apollo, they just screw in with coarse thread Phillips screws, and you can see all the screws, they are exposed, and then they do not integrate with the aluminum siding. Whereas on the Elites, there are no exposed screws on the fender flares, and they do integrate with the siding of the cart. The siding is completely different. You do not have the aluminum DACH siding anymore. It has switched over to just a black plastic, and it has the built-in LED that matches the roof and speaker lighting up top. Another minuscule change that they made, but like I said, I'm gonna point out everything, is the running boards actually. So just looking at the running boards, you can almost see there is a larger gap between the two, and that is because they actually did move this forward step further this way on the Elite. So, and you can see actually, you can see where the curve is, where on this one, there's no curve, it's a little different. So the seat actually curves and ends with this straight piece notched into it. So slight differences, but I just wanted to show you guys, you still get the choice of your tire, whether you want street tread, or if you want all-terrain. You can see like the standard Apollo just has the all-terrains on it right now. But with the Elites, you know, you will have that choice whether you want the all-terrains or the street tread. And then you'll have two choice of wheels. I don't know if some of you guys remember earlier in the year when DACH, you know, launched, they had the all black wheel like this one you see, and then they had a black with, you know, kind of silver trim. So you'll get those two options again. So a couple wheel options. Before I turn this card on, I actually want to show you guys. Now that DACH has moved away from a fuse box, and you know, we'll go further into that later, they have a body control module now. So that allows certain 12-volt accessories to always have power. You can actually have your running lights on while the card is off. You cannot do that with the standard Apollos. So yeah, try and flip them on, still off. Another thing that retains 12-volt power while the card is off is your hazards. You can see our hazards are on while the cart is off. The standard Apollos do not do that. There is no power to any 12-volt accessory. Let me turn this off. There's no power to any 12-volt accessory while the cart is off on the standard Apollos. The Elites, they're different. You also still have access to your horn while the cart is off. Parking lights, daytime running lights, or whatever you want to call them, you still get those while the cart is off. You still get your horn, and you still get your hazard lights, all while the cart is off. You do not get to do that on the standard Apollo. Diving a little bit further into it, as you can see, the standard Apollo over here, we do have the wood grain. You're gonna get the same options that you got before, so you'll get to choose either your silver or you'll get to do the wood grain. Then you have your steering wheel trim. You can see this one has the black and this one has the orange. So I'm not sure you'll get the option of orange on the Elites, like going further into the year. Not entirely sure, but you'll definitely have the black and the silver option. We'll have to see what happens with the orange. I believe they're starting to phase out the orange as it wasn't very popular. So another small change they made, the buttons and the dials are the same, but the feel is completely different. This is more of a button. You push it all the way in, it kind of stays depressed. Like you could feel it stay depressed down in there, the hazard anyways. And then the dial's like kind of crunchy, you know, you're not really confident what gear it's always in, right? Well, on the Elites, they changed that entirely. On the Elites, these button presses feel a lot better. They're not as exaggerated, you know, like in the hazard doesn't stay depressed when it's on. And this dial now for the gears is significantly better. You're very confident which gear you're in. It kind of like, it kind of wants to go into those grooves, those slots. So definitely a lot more confident when selecting the gears. This is a good area that DACH touched up on and made just feel a lot better. Another difference the Elite has is the key. This is now your new key. This is the NFC chip or NFC card that you will use to start your vehicle. Now it does still have the option to connect your phone to it, just like the standard Apollo did, but now you do not have the blue chips that the standard Apollo had at one point. Now you have a card, and it starts the same way, but there is some sound differences. So we'll start this one, and then we'll start the standard and see what it sounds like. So it's, you know, it's a lot less high pitched. It's kind of, you know, it's not as loud as the standard Apollo. So we'll start the standard Apollo and see what it sounds like. So you see, the standard Apollo is like much louder and it's much more high pitched. As far as the touchscreen goes, there is not much difference in the screen. The only big difference with the screen is that this switch finally works in the Elites. So everyone knows the DACH overhead light has been a nuisance for a lot of people. A lot of people think it's too bright at night. Well, you hit the switch and it works now. It functions now. It actually functions. So let's take you over to the standard Apollo and we'll try it over there. Switch this off. It's still bright, still on. The standard Apollos do not have that feature. You do still have the same 73.6 volt, aka 72 volt, 105 amp hour lithium battery in both carts. It's the same battery, 72 volt, 105 amp hour, roughly 50 mile of range on both of these carts. But the underside of the seat cushion is slightly different. So now there's only 2 of those little knobs that lock the front seat in. I know some people were having trouble with the old design. So this is the standard Apollo design. You see it doesn't have the plastic tray underneath. This kind of has like a really nice finish to it now. It's like a lot more sturdy, and you know, this is just some material that's stapled to the bottom of the cushion. So you know, the Elites look a lot more premium now, and the Elites are also not as hard to pop the front seat open. So I know before it's kind of hard to get your fingers underneath and pop it open. Well, now we don't really have that issue anymore because they're only running 2 of the little push pin things. On the standard Apollos, the battery compartment, you cannot see the floor through here. You cannot see the floor. It's solid steel, solid powder coated steel across the entire length from frame to frame. Not anymore. See the floor through the battery compartment, and now you have a module on this side. The Elites are sitting on a completely different frame. Completely different frame. It's not even remotely close to the same frame as the standard Apollos, and we'll get a closer look at it later. But yeah, it's a completely different chassis. That's why we pretty much say that the Apollo Elite is almost a full redesign. Another obviously noticeable difference is the 2 additional speakers. Standard Apollo, no speakers. The Elite, 2 additional speakers. And you can see, still have the 2 in the roof, sound bar. Yep, the standard Apollo has 2 in the roof and the sound bar, but no speakers. I believe DACH did start using new speakers because this system does sound a lot more clear than the standard Apollo. And you know, it's very noticeable. It seems like the audio quality has gotten better for the Elites. Not only is it 2 additional speakers, but it does seem like the audio quality has gotten better. And as you're continuing down the side of the Elite, you know, here's that integrated flare that comes up over. It's, you know, smooth. You don't see any of the screws, and it integrates into the back bumper. But before we go too far, let's take a look at our charge port. So obviously the charge port was relocated to the side, whereas the standard Apollos is right here. And it's kind of, you know, it doesn't blend well with the cart. It's just out in the open and it's just screwed to it. You know, it doesn't look well. Now with the Elites, you have charge door that you open up, you know, and it's just a push. You push it, then you could open it. Now this is actually a charging and discharging port. So what that means is this cart, the Elites come with a discharging cable as well as a charging cable. So you could plug them into this port and you could actually use it to power other things. You could charge, I don't know, you could charge a GoTrack scooter if you wanted to. You could, you know, power a leaf blower, power a mini fridge, up to 1200 watts, which is a good amount of wattage, you can power from your cart. So these are the cords that you'll get with your Apollo Elite. And you can see this is just your typical charging gun, although it is not the same as the standard Apollo charging gun. It is not the same. They are not, you cannot use them on each other. So this is the Elite charging gun. And the way you could tell the difference is it has another metal port right here. And I'm assuming that's for, you know, data or info or charging information, charging data, something, but there's a 4th little metal pin here. Whereas the standard charging gun, you can see it looks like it's there for a reason, like, you know, this plastic piece, but there's no metal pin, there's no wire. It's, you know, just a 3-port, it's just charging, it's just the charging gun, that's it. So you cannot use the old charging gun to charge the new Elites. It does not work. Also with the Elite, you'll get this discharging gun. So it looks identical, but the other end is a female household outlet. So you see it's 125 volts, so your standard household outlets anywhere from 110, 115, 120, 125, you know, they're all the same. And that is, you know, what you would use to power anything you want. Any, you know, like I was saying, you could charge a GoTrack scooter, you could do whatever you want with it. So pretty cool, unique feature out of the Elites. You cannot do this with the standard Apollo. I'm gonna shut both of these carts back off so I could show you the charging features on the Elites, and just listen to the difference in the sound the Elite makes when it shuts off. Okay, so, you know, it's not as loud. Again, it's not as loud as the standard Apollo, but, you know, it's just an audible noise that lets you know, hey, it's off. Now let's listen to the standard Apollo. So a lot louder, you know, a lot louder. But just, you know, those minor differences, you know, I'm showing you guys everything. Alrighty, so I now have the Apollo Elite plugged in, and I want to show you guys a feature that the Elites do that the standards do not. So the Elite will pop up on the screen, tell you how much power it's consuming, what percentage it is at, and for how long it will take to fully charge the cart. So as you saw on the screen, it'll take roughly 56 minutes at that current charging power to fully charge this cart. So super unique feature. The standard Apollo does not do that. You plug it in, it is equipped with a smart charger. It does know when to stop charging and all that, but you cannot display it on the screen. Alrighty, so now I have the discharging gun plugged in to the cart, and you can see I have this EcoX Gear Defender speaker plugged into the female side of the discharging gun, and you can see it's charging. I'm charging the speaker through the cart, and if you come over to the screen, you could tap the power button on the screen, and it wakes the screen up. So the information on the screen says we're using roughly 50 watts of power. The current charge on the cart is 86%, and we could charge that EcoX Gear Defender speaker for 16 hours and 40 minutes at that current power output. So super unique feature. You cannot do that on the standard Apollos. Okay, and continuing on, so you can see there's another one of those reflectors that is going to become the standard on all the Elites moving forward. The standard Apollo does not have that. No real difference as far as like the back side of the front seat. You know, the cushions are the same, the back, you know, cup holders, the grab bar, everything's the same. What is different is the handles up top. So these Apollo Elites come with these really rigid, rugged handles. You can shake the entire cart and that handle is not gonna break. I do not trust the standard Apollo handles to do that. This handle folds up, and with it being on that hinging mechanism, I really don't think it's as rugged as the new Elite handles are. I mean, this just feels really solid. So those are good handles. Working our way to the rear seat compartment, you can see the Elite has a very different rear compartment. So, I mean, you could tell just by looking at it. Another thing is the seat stays up without you having to hold it. The standard Apollo, the seat does not stay up without you having to hold it. It just continues to fall. But you can see the standard Apollo has the EMB and run switch, the three position switch right there. And you have a fuse box for all your fuses and relays, have your controller, you've got your 12-volt converter, your smart charger, all that stuff, your motors down there. So moving on to the Elite, what you have now is instead of a fuse box, you have a body module. So this is going to be your body module. This is what's controlling all of your 12 volt accessories now. So it's sending 12 volt power to stuff, and this is what's controlling, let's say, your hazards when the cart is off, or your running lights when the cart is off, or your horn. It's all running through this body module. And the backup speaker and the turn signal speaker is built into the module. So just keep that in mind. The speaker, the backup beeper, the turn signal beeper, it's built into the module. Another key difference is you no longer have a 3-position switch. You only have an EMB button. So it's a button now. And the EMB cannot be activated when the cart is off. So you can see I just clicked it. The cart will not roll. Whereas on the standard Apollo, the cart can be completely off and I could still flip it to EMB and free roll the cart.
Just wanted to jump in real quick and mention that this feature is more than likely for theft prevention. So now somebody cannot flip up your rear seat and get your cart to free roll without having access to the key.
So you can see, your controllers over here, you have your 12 volt converter over here, and then you have your power inverter. So this is what's taking your 72 volt power from the lithium battery, and it's converting it to that 110, 120, 125 volt power source at the discharging port. Got a big beefy unit right here. Got your motor down there, your EMB over there. You can get a nice view of both sides of the calipers, and they're painted red. There's quite a lot of room in here now, and you don't have that metal cross member going across. That's how the Apollo Elites look underneath that rear seat. Alrighty, and moving back to the part of the cart that everyone wants to see, because it's the most drastic change that DACH made, is the rear end. As you can tell, much larger trunk, much larger tail lights. This trunk is huge, it's massive. And this is still removable and lockable just like the original, except now they've made it so once you remove this, you could put your golf bags in place of it. Really cool now. Before, everyone, they were getting a bunch of complaints that, you'd have to have this big, ugly attachment. So this is the attachment you used to have on the back of a standard Apollo. And you could see that's pretty much a permanent attachment. Unless somebody's gonna get under there every single time with a 13 millimeter, ratchet, that's pretty much staying on there permanently. So it adds extended length to the cart. It's a big hunky piece of metal. The reverse camera gets relocated to the front of it. It's not a very suitable option for most people. DACH made the change. You now have this massive trunk. Once it's removed, you get a nice spot to put your bags. I'll bring you in close for a close-up. So you can see on the standard Apollo, not a whole lot of space, no way to put golf bags in it. Whereas the Elite, once that trunk is removed, tons of space. So you can see they even have like the curvatures where your bags can kind of sit. And then the attachment they sell, these are threaded holes. It's covered with a rubber right now, but you pull this rubber out. I'm not sure if you could see it in there, but it is already a threaded hole. So they're gonna be coming out with attachments for the Elites that thread into here. And this is gonna be where your straps are. So you put your bag in and then the straps will hold it tight to the cart. No longer will you need this big honky piece of metal coming off the back of the cart. Now you could just remove the trunk, throw your bags in, go play golf, come home, pull your bags out, and put the trunk in place. DACH has been listening, guys. DACH is listening. Everyone's been saying, everyone's been looking for a solution for the golf players, for golf bags, and DACH did listen and they produced. Okay, so you'll notice the taillights are a lot larger and a lot more visible on the Apollo Elite. They also have a startup sequence. The LEDs wrap around and then come up. It looks pretty cool. But they also relocated the reverse lights down to these lights. So it's built into the bumper now rather than it being in the same lighting housing. So we'll throw it in reverse for you real quick, let you look at that. As you can see, your reverse light used to be built into the housing. Now it's down here. Your turn signals are in this housing as well. Another difference, The Apollo Elites are coming with a license plate holder integrated into the rear bumper now. No longer are dealers gonna have to install aftermarket license plate mounts or aftermarket license plate lights for the Apollo Elites. This does have a light underneath here, and it does have a place to already mount your license plate. So as you guys know, these carts typically come with a full 17-digit VIN number. They can be registered and they could be driven on the road legally so long as it's 35-mile-per-hour speed limit road or under. And then you do have your reverse camera down here. You look at the standard Apollo, there's no place to put a license plate. Your reverse camera is kind of just a hole in the back of the bumper. All right, I'm gonna take you guys in for a closer look to the framework and suspension in the rear end. So let's look at our standard Apollo. Coming into our standard Apollo, you can see you have a frame rail that runs all the way to this back bumper right here. And this is actually where your threaded holes are for your attachments, such as the golf bag holder or the hitch or other attachments. That's where that was. And that frame rail does run all the way back to the front. You can kind of see it there. See, it runs all the way down the side. You have a really solid rear end, really solid rear differential. You have the motor, and yeah, I mean, it's a solid build. So let's move on to the Elite. Getting a closer look at the rear end of the Elite, you can see there's the license plate light and the backup camera. And then behind the bumper at our framework and suspension, you can see there still is a frame rail that runs up, but it just doesn't come quite as far all the way to the bumper as the standard Apollos do. But you can see you have a nice beefy cross member that connects the rear end here, and you still have that same solid beefy rear differential. And then you can see the frame up there. You can see that there. See how it kind of curves up over the top. The coilover's connected to it, and that does run all the way to the front. So it almost reminds me more of a body on frame style rather than the standard Apollo. This is the standard Apollo frame and chassis, and you could actually see this is that back where the back bumper comes to. So but our new Elites, they actually end like right here. They don't come all the way out. Some more minor differences that I want to point out on the Elites. All of the Elites will now come with the rain enclosure railings already installed, whereas the standard Apollos have nothing. They do not have the railings installed yet. So all of the Elites will come with the railings already installed. The sound bars are slightly different. They don't have all the notches and grooves on the back. They're smooth. You see this one has all those grooves. The sound bars are just a smooth finish now. It looks better. Just slightly different build. You can see there's a little more reinforcement there on this, the top of this upright, whereas before it was just a piece of like 1/4-inch steel, just flat. So a little bit more, structural stability here. That's what it seems like.
I did my best here to try and give you guys a good view of the frame and the underside of the cart. This is the 2026 Elite that we're looking at right now, and we're going to look at the standard Apollo next, but you'll be able to see quite a lot of differences, including right here. This is where the sway bar comes in, and I mean, everything looks very solid, very beefy. Looks like it can hold up pretty well. Moving on to the standard Apollo, you can see this one has a lot more steel plating that connects the two frame rails. The other one kind of reminds me a lot of like body on frame. So the other one does seem a little beefier. The Elite seems a little beefier, especially where that sway bar comes in. But they both look good and they're both sturdy.
All right, and I think that's it. I think I've covered almost everything. I may have missed something. If I did, let me know in the comments. But as far as I know, that is every single difference between the 2026 DACH Apollo and the 2026 DACH Apollo Elite. Now, If there's something that we could have done better on our side, or if there's something you think DACH could be doing better, comment it down below. I'm interested to see what you guys are thinking. I'm interested to see any other ideas you guys might have that can make a better cart. DACH is as well, and DACH will be listening. The only way their carts get better and the only way they suit you guys more is if we hear feedback from you, right? So comment what your thoughts are down below. Let us know if we missed anything. But I think I did pretty well on touching base on almost every difference here. Now, if you guys have any questions at all, give us a call, 321-219-9292. We'd love to help you guys out. We'd love to get you guys in a cart that best suits you and the purposes you want to use it for. Also, you can browse our full inventory at vibeluxurycarts.com, or you could email us with any questions or any sale inquiry at sales@vibeluxurycarts.com. Hey, I thank you guys for tuning into the video. Hopefully you've got some knowledge from this video and it will help you during your shopping. Hopefully it'll give you some thoughtful insights into what you're looking for out of a cart. Thanks again for watching. I'm Chad with Vibe Golf Carts, and I'll see you in the next video.